Going on, you lovely people? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing good. It's your boy Roliver Queen. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely, scrumptious, delicious, handsome as fuck, and flavorful homeboys. Fellas, please introduce yourself, starting with good old Steph.
Hey everybody, it's me again. Glad to be back.
Go ahead, AJ.
Hey, everybody, glad to be here. Glad to be back.
Word, y'all. So we're not gonna waste any time. We're just gonna jump in. Y'all, we are here to do a follow-up to a video that I put out 2 days ago talking about the cancellation of Red Hood. A lot of things transpired after I finished editing the video. So the book came out. Obviously, there was a lot of conversation about the quality of the book. There was a lot of theories going around behind what could happen in the book regarding Helena and Jason. That was a big point of discourse.
A lot of
Like I
people who
said,
clearly hadn't even read the book, talking
yep.
as if they had read the book.
So it was a lot going on. And also, we had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Later on, Gretchen Felker Martin, the writer for DC, had one on Blue Sky, and they let the chopper fly. Like it was a very crass tweet that was celebrating the out of here-ness of Charlie Kirk. Before we had recorded, I believe Blue Sky had terminated the account or suspended the account. But because the account was terminated, I was like, all right, well, this is probably going to blow over. But I didn't realize it was going to get like this. Literally a couple hours after that tweet had gone out, there was a article by Popverse that said DC had canceled the book. So any issues, any comic shops that had Red Hood on the stands, they got to get rid of them. And orders for issues 2 and 3, because I think those are the only ones that were solicited, they are now canceled. And they put out a statement saying, writers are free to express their opinions or whatnot, but when it comes to celebrating death or even just like putting out harmful words, we got to cut ties with them. Fast forward, we heard from Gretchen. Gretchen at least said, you know what? My actions did impact other creators because it wasn't just Gretchen Martin. Yeah, Jeff Spokes, who's the artist, and it was a colorist, and yeah. But then apparently, in that same conversation, they were approached by the editor in chief, Marie Javins,
Gavins,
who,
yeah.
yo, side note, we don't ever hear Marie Javins speak.
hmm
Do you know how bad you got to fuck up to get
It's a,
Marie
it's a, it's a,
Javins?
it's a couple reasons why she got involved. We'll talk about it later, but
Yep. Gretchen also admitted, yeah, it was a poor case of impulse control, but also they stood on what they said and, brought in other creatives to use as rationalizations on top of the previous words of Charlie Kirk. And then since then, there's a conversation now oh, was DC practicing censorship? Is DC playing favoritism? Is DC doing this? Is DC doing that? Also, we got to add in the fact now too that DC has effectively scrubbed Red Hood #1 pretty much everywhere. You can't even talk about it on League of Comic Book Geeks, and that's not even a DC run site. You can't find it on Comixology. You can't find it on the secondhand sites unless it's eBay. So yeah, DC has parted ways with this book as much as they can. So now that we have that groundwork laid, let's get into the nitty gritty. AJ, starting with you, what are your thoughts, bro?
oh boy, it's a lot. Number one, Gretchen is full of shit. I'm sorry. She was said initially when she got hired by by DC, they're a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, that she was not given any kind of warnings about her social media, and that in fact she had to bring it up to DC like, hey, I'm kind of controversial online and you're probably going to get some backlash for hiring me. A couple things with that. They may not have spoken to you specifically about your social media, but saying that DC, a subsidiary of now Warner Brothers Discovery, did not mention anything about social media in the hiring process is a lie. Full stop. I'm not going to let that fly. I've worked for a Warner Brothers subsidiary before. You are given guidelines about your social media behavior. The article goes on to say that they contacted two other DC creatives And they also said, hey, when we are hired, we are given social media guidelines. What I got is probably a little tougher than what is given to comics book creative, but there are things they said, hey, you cannot do certain things that are going to reflect negatively on us or our parent company. That's just a fact. Like, I was not gonna let that go when I saw that in the article that day. So that was number one. Then she says the first time that she was contacted about her social media by someone in editorial was on September 3rd. And I think that was around the time when a Twitter account in support of Israel kind of highlighted her stuff and saying that, hey, she's anti-Semitic and whatnot. And I guess that's around the first time that she at least believes that it started getting back to DC and potentially Warner Brothers. So she says that's the first time that she was spoken to, and that for a week she basically played ball with the company until the Charlie Kirk thing happened, and then she just kind of, in a moment of impulse control, like she said, let those posts fly. Except the article from Comics SF mentioned that DC had a conversation with her on August 13th about her social media behavior, nearly an entire month before the tweets the posts, because she wasn't on Twitter, that would get her up out of there. Now, Gretchen says she clearly has no regrets. I think that's a lie, because if you didn't have any regrets, you wouldn't keep lying about this. Yeah, you stood on it with Marie Javins, but you are still trying to avoid any sort of accountability here. You said what you said, and yeah, true, you did not apologize for it. But you aren't being honest about how early they talked to you about your social media antics. And let's be clear, Charlie Kirk is what he was. We don't need to relitigate that here. I don't hold any sorrow or remorse, but at the same time, you are representing a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. There are certain things that you cannot do on your easily identifiable public social media profile. Make a fucking burner page if you want to get that shit off. Like, is that simple?
Or write it in a journal.
Keep it in a group chat, whatever. Lord knows y'all have seen some of the stuff I've said over the past 48 hours, but you cannot trace that back to me. And if I were still at my previous employer, if I were at anybody publicly traded corporate America, yeah, the shit that I've been saying the past couple of days could have also gotten me up out of here. But I'm not under the illusion that if I were to be fired because of that my identity as a black man would be why I'm fired. Everybody wants to make it about, oh, she's trans.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry. Oof.
Yeah, like, I mean, we'll cover more of that later, like we said. But there are other trans people employed by DC right now who have the common sense not to act like an idiot online. That's what got you out of here. Like, I'm sorry. I hate it because all of the people who are now clamoring for how DC was just so unfair to this woman are the same people who were trashing this book before it even came out. But now, because you got what you wished for in this book being canceled and this writer being shown the door, but it didn't happen the way you wanted, now you're going to try to make this a moral cause for you to argue for online so you can get cool points. No, shut the fuck up. We saw y'all in the days before this book came out. It is what it is. You got what you wanted. And two, I hate this because it's now taking money out of other creators' pockets.
Yes.
And yes, DC is looking to put these folks on other projects. Cool, but you don't know how soon that's going to be. You don't know what other projects that Spokes and the rest of the creative staff turned down. You don't know if the editor on this book is going to get another book to edit sometime soon to replace that for stream of lost income. You talk about your colorists, your inkers, your letterers. Yes, thank you. Shit, lost my train of thought for a second. All of these people have had their income affected by one person. Now, I believe she's remorseful about that aspect of it, but I don't believe she holds any regret. If you did, you'd be forthcoming about how soon they really spoke to you about this. You've had at least 3 chances
Mm-hmm.
to rectify your behavior, or to say, you know what, I'm just not going to be on social media while I'm writing this book. You were given at least 3 chances, and at every chance except the very last, well, the next to very last one, at every opportunity, you did not heed those warnings. Now, you say you spent it for a week, about a week being good and having proper impulse control until the Charlie Kirk stuff happened. Cool. Even after that post, you were given a chance. They offered you a chance to apologize. I get it. You got to stand for what you believe in. He attacked your community. He's attacked
Mm-hmm.
mine as well. So I'm not disparaging you for not apologizing on that. But let's not act like they haven't given you chance after chance after chance.
Yeah.
And now we are where we are with this book. It's been canceled. Like Rose said, they're essentially scrubbing all traces of its existence. I'm probably gonna slab this for. I rarely do that, but now this is a fucking collector's item. So, yeah, exactly. There were still copies of one in warehouses, and those are being pulped. I've heard any shops that still had copies left over, they're being asked to sit in those back so those can be pulped. It's nasty, and it's also affected a release of something next week that
Yeah.
we'll get
The
into later.
Yeah,
But
we'll get to that. Yeah, but
yeah.
Steph, what are your quick thoughts on like this whole thing?
I do want to thank AJ first off, because there was a lot of details that I didn't know about. I didn't know about all the shit that happened in August. So good thing that was brought up. I do have to say that like it's obviously a little different when it comes to the social media backlash before all of this stuff happened, like why everybody had the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, and we'll get into that when we get into that. But like, and how bad faith a lot of that was initially, at least. But it's, I guess the only thing that I really have to say is just like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that what she said about Charlie is something I could, I guess, blame her for saying, right? Like the oppressed do not owe people who wish them harm any sympathy. When they're on the receiving end of the violence, they try to normalize. You know what I mean? But the problem is that like, as much as I understand why she would obviously feel the way she does and say the things she said in the moment or whatever, it's like you can't be employed by a company that is somebody you haven't worked for before, and you don't have the proven track record to make them be lenient to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also they're kind of looking for a buyer right now. Right. Are they not?
Thank you.
Oh
That's what I
shit! I
forgot.
forgot.
Yeah.
Not just
It's
looking
like,
for a buyer. That merger is
yeah.
going to have to be approved by this administration.
Yeah. Now more than ever, they need to be in like squeaky clean reputation mode, right? Like they need to look for anything that could be a potential like outlier or a liability and get rid of it immediately. Right. They need to do that. Obviously, you kind of can't expect to say things like this and stay employed.
Yeah.
That's just it. That's, like, obviously, again, he literally attacked her community. Like, I get it. Like, he wanted her and people like her on like the receiving end of a gun barrel. I understand that she's mad. She's got every right to be mad, right? But the company is just looking for somebody to acquire them for like a merger, right? Like they need to be, they need to do everything that they can to look appealing to people who might want them.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of thing is real big wedge in that. It's like, oh, you hire people that just have this kind of social media etiquette or lack of a social media etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of, she was always going to get fired. Like, there's unfortunately just not a whole lot to say in this kind of regard.
AJ, me and AJ touched upon it also. Yeah, there was no previous work with Gretchen in DC, but I was just watching another pod before this, the Comic Pals. They brought up a very good point. Gretchen has a whole other industry to fall back on. Horror, fiction, right?
Well,
so
she's facing some backlash in that industry now too. So
yeah, but But yeah,
she is more established here. I'll put it that way. So
yeah, she's more established
right.
there. When it comes to the creative process, I believe it's just the writer and the editor. But when it comes to comic books, it is way more collaborative. If we want to keep it a fat stack, Gretchen got a nice little comfy cushion. Also got to throw that aspect in there. And then the social media aspect of it. And I said this when I was with Quentin the other day. There needs to be a much better social media protocol when it comes to the big two, right? There is something got to be done because I think if
I think
anything,
that's coming after this. I really do.
Because I think after this, like this was a big example. If people were comfy before, oh, best believe now everybody gonna be on their tippy toes. Like AJ mentioned, right? You did some work for WB or DC or whatever, right? Like I guarantee.
CNN, but
Hmm?
they were CNN. They're under Warner Brothers. It was Time Warner at the time, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. So,
but yeah, I say that to say like now whatever you got in terms of like that disclosure and whatever they got, best believe that is being retooled now. It's being retooled now. Because am I gonna pretend that everybody's been perfect on social media? No, like there was how many times a week we keep talking about, yo, this person probably shouldn't have said that. This person shouldn't be interacting with the fans that way. This person shouldn't be doing. Oh, best believe that shit gonna change. Best believe that shit gonna change. And then there's another element to this as well before we like deep dive in. Everybody is, rightfully upset at Gretchen, the execs or whatever. But I'm sorry. I'm happy I had this conversation with her before she passed. I had a conversation with Sai beforehand. Yo, these editors are not. These editors aren't editing because I'm sorry, bro. It don't matter where these people's backgrounds are in terms of like what they did beforehand in terms of like the industry, bro. Y'all gotta do a better job of bringing certain people into the fold because the shit we've been hearing about how loosey goosey editorial was throughout this entire thing is crazy. Like, bro, Perch just put out a video saying, yo, they knew all the fuck shit going on. And because they said, oh, well, it's Red Hood, it's probably not going to sell. Well, I wonder where we would be if you guys weren't running around with that mentality. I wonder where we would be today. I wonder if Red Hood wouldn't be fucked over for the umpteenth time if you guys did your due diligence. So no, I'm not gonna just sit here and just by all means, do I think what Gretchen did was stupid? Yes, I'll get into that later. But nah, there's a lot more other people here that needs to be held accountable for what happened because this could have been avoided. If anything, I'll go as far to say Editorial led the way for this to happen.
I'm going to be honest, by learning more about, I have learned more about this woman over the past 48 hours than I've really cared to know. She probably never should have been hired in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got to call a sack a stack. DC was chasing a prestigious writer from another genre. She's a prose writer. She's a novelist, and she is apparently very talented. She is award winning. So it's like, hey, let's bring some of that over to the comics industry. This isn't the first time that the big two in general has taken this approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did it with Far Sector, but she's a big time sci-fi author, also bestseller, also award winner. She brought them some prestige with that book. You look at Ta-Nehisi Coates over at Marvel with Black Panther and Captain America, brought them some prestige, brought them some good sales. Like, yeah, it's a technique that the big two have employed before, but after this last thing now, I really don't know how beneficial it is of a practice to keep going forward. When you have people like Mark Waid saying stuff about Trump, which can fall into similar categories as Mark Waid is going to have so much of a longer runway because he has a built-in cachet with DC. He has a built-in cachet with Marvel. Yeah, so you're not going to turn around and fire him the first time he says something off color. Number one, it hasn't garnered anywhere near as much attention as this the
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk situation did, because Charlie Kirk was murdered and we all watched it. So it's become a bound, like people are just running around with this argument. Oh, but this person has said, but this person has done, but this person in a vacuum, true, yes. But we know that we do not live in a vacuum. Life is not one-to-one applications for every similar situation. And stuff isn't, I think this is showing me a lot of people are getting their first experience with the fact of the real world and real life,
Yeah.
and like stuff you say online can lead to consequence. And I think a lot of these people, we make the joke about folks' ages all the time, but you look at them, a lot of these people have spent their formative years being locked down with COVID and just in front of computer
Uh-huh.
screens and on their phones and behind keyboards all day. How y'all interact on the internet, guys, that shit isn't normal. I'm sorry to tell you. And
It's not.
you get out here in the real world, it will lead to consequences. Hell, Charlie Kirk, how he acted on the internet led to consequences for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, this shit isn't just trolling, it isn't just joking. It will have repercussions on your life, on your employment, on your friendships, any relationships. Like,
I
y'all got to
mean,
think before y'all get online doing some of this stuff.
before we continue, Quentin, introduce yourself real quick and then give us your quick thoughts on everything that happened before we delve further in.
What's good, everybody? Q again. On everything, it's been kind of a chaotic week, I guess, right? This is a life lesson about things that you say have consequences, right? It's important, especially like Ro always says, you interacting with fans, you are not a civilian anymore. No matter how much you want to be connected and, feel like you're down to earth and feel like you're, one of us, you're not one of us. You're a working, employed writer by a big two company, a massive IP. You handle one of the biggest IPs in conjunction with Red Hood being connection to Batman. You're gonna have eyes on you regardless of your sexuality, your race, your creed, your nationality. You write that book or books that surround it, you're gonna be held to a higher standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes with the background of writing superhero comics to begin with, but that's another conversation to have. We're talking about Brinks. I had seen clips, but I never knew who he was, right? Somebody on my Facebook said it really, really adequately. I'm not condoning murder, especially murder being murdered. I'm a Batman fan, so I'm not going to be, condone murder, especially being murdered in front of your children, right? I'm a father as well. So I get that part, but also I'm not mourning either, right? I don't know. I can't make anybody feel something, but I feel like if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck, right? And in Gretchen's case, it's the same thing. It's talking too goddamn much, right? Like, everybody doesn't have to know your opinion. That's another thing. Like, we live in this world, everybody feels like they have to give their opinion. They have to say freedom of speech is when it comes to being oppressed. When you feel like you can't say anything. That's where freedom is. That's why I hate people that take the amendments in the Constitution and wrap it around and use it for the wrong reasons. Like, I ain't saying the founding fathers were like the perfect people, but the what those amendments were supposed to mean and what they get delegated to now is crazy. So freedom of speech is made for you to be able to speak your mind when you feel like you can't, not just to say crazy shit, right? Or radical shit.
And
now,
it only
it can
protects
be a
you
part
from,
of that.
I was just gonna say that.
Go ahead, AJ.
Just adding on to what you're saying about freedom of speech, guys, that shit only protects you from the government coming after you for your speech. So, like, you can say some wild, outlandish shit, and in cases that it does not cause physical harm, the government can't come and fine you for your speech. They can't come and write you a ticket for your speech. They can't come and arrest you for your speech. In most cases, there are certain examples where it can happen, but that shit does not apply to private employers.
Yeah.
To get you up out of here because you said something online. I'm sorry. That's not, freedom of speech has never been that. I don't know why we as a society think it goes so much further than what it does. It does not. It is very limited in scope.
Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences.
Yes. Exactly.
That's cool. Like yo,
It's literally freedom from government sanction for your speech. That's what it is.
I think now we can start to like really delve into like the response to this whole entire thing. Gretchen, like I mentioned before, brought up other creatives to justify, their speech, what was said and all that. And I want to preface this by saying this here: we not gonna turn. I love. Listen, we love King. Cool, cool, but we not gonna spend too much time talking about the intricacies of King. But King was mentioned, Loeb was mentioned, and then obviously, there were other names thrown in that hat by the fandom. So, of course, the timeline does what the timeline does is, oh, but this person did XYZ, this person did XYZ, but they still kept their job. So I want to preface it. I want to put a blanket statement on that. Regardless of how you feel about, Tom King, Jeff Loeb, or even Scott Lobdell, that was another name that was thrown out there. We got to say this also. When those guys were employed, that was a different DC. That was not the DC of today. And also, if I'm not mistaken, when that stuff came out about Lobdell, Lobdell wasn't even able to finish his Red Hood run. Lobdell got kicked off of the book 2 issues to 50. Sean Martin, bro, had to go and finish up that volume for him. Tom King, on the other hand, that was, like I said, that was his job or whatever. And I know people are throwing around that clip of, I guess he was with some panel or whatever, and he was talking about, some shit that he did. And apparently, upon more context, he was talking about how torture is not effective. So,
Which is the prevailing view of the overwhelming majority of the intelligence community for
yeah,
the past 15 to 20 years. We all know torture is not a reliable form of getting information out of people. That's what King is trying to explain to his audience and to the other writers on the panel. Like, yeah, it makes for a funny moment in comics when Batman's dangling somebody over a roof and forcing them to talk. That's not how you actually get information out of people.
yeah.
That's all he
So,
was saying. And somehow this has turned into, ha ha ha, I tortured millions of Iraqis. Guys, he was a low level analyst at the age of 22 when that shit was going on. I'm not going to say he didn't gain seniority over his career and employment, but how much do y'all really think that a 22-year-old was involved in the planning of one of the largest military operations in the history of this country? I really need y'all to think for a fucking second.
They make him sound like he's Steve Trevor or Steve Rogers, bro. And it's,
yeah.
I be
Dog,
like, dog, he was
King
crunching
And
numbers,
himself,
bro.
King himself has come out and said for the majority of his career during that time at the CIA that he was spending time getting coffee for other his officers much more superior than him, and the only time he really got to run his office is when the guy who was in charge of his office at night was too drunk to focus at work or sleeping off a previous hangover. That's when King had some authority at the
What the
CIA.
fuck?
yeah.
He's not some mastermind behind the war on terror like y'all want to make him out to be.
Also, even on that aspect too, right? Cool. Like the internet and their opinion of King or whatever. Here's also the bottom line. Like I said, different DC, and also too, I said this on the timeline. Hey, did any of those guys go immediately after a political incident and poke fun? Not even poke fun, because I don't think that was fun. Say what they said in that manner regarding a political incident. No. I'll throw Martin a bone. If you wanted to tweet that out, you probably should have waited a couple days, maybe a week, maybe a week, not immediately right then. When not only the SEO is high, the SEO for Charlie Kirk at this point is high. Red Hood SEO is high too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you have eyes on you from previous shit. So to equate that with whatever may have happened previously in a whole other regime, is crazy, and it removes accountability, which is like the main thing here. Also, I'm happy that we are here. Y'all, this is for my young ones. This is for my young ones. This is for the people between that age bracket me and Colton was talking about. The ones between 14 to 25 with the pronouns and bio. This is for y'all. For as much as y'all claim to be tapped in with this business, you guys are not tapped in. When retailers, the bread and butter of your business, are barking up your tree saying, yo, we are not going to sell this book, that is bad. We saw clips of people throwing away stacks of Red Hood #1. That's money being thrown away. That is literally, because remember, you pay for those issues. When you make a pre-order, that is the comic shop paying for the issue.
Mm-hmm.
We only saw clips of certain retailers throwing away the copies. Lord knows how many people that we didn't see online barking up DC's tree. And let me tell you something about the retailer community. These guys are tight knit.
Yes, thank
They
you.
tight. So if one or two says, "Hey, we're not fucking with this," the rest of them, they gonna follow suit. And if those books do not get into those shops, or if they say we do not want those books, that affects the bottom line. Think about if that was your favorite character. Imagine if retailers said, "Yo, that Cassandra Cain book, we don't want that shit on the shelves." Because they are the direct, they are literally the last line between the comic book coming out and you getting the comic book.
See,
So,
too.
And what's crazy, not to cut you off, bro,
mhm,
it's they will never work with DC again, bro. Never.
mhm,
They probably won't get a job with they won't probably break into another comic book publisher. It would probably be something small like Boom, Scout. It's they will never take a risk on them again, bro.
I was just gonna piggyback on what Ro was saying about younger folk not really being tapped into the industry like that. See, too many of y'all think that y'all are DC and Marvel's customers. You're not.
mhm,
You are customers of whatever marketplace you get your book from. So whatever shop, individual shop that you go to, that's who you're a customer of. Whatever online marketplace, whether it be Comixology, Apple
mhm,
Books, Google Books, whatever, that's who you're a customer of. You are not a customer of Marvel and DC. Now they get a percentage of the money that you spend with the shop, but you're not directly buying from them. You are not their customer. You are
mhm,
not who they care about. So when they see y'all rah-rahing online, I know as of late it's felt like they listen to y'all a little more. I promise y'all they're not. They're going by what the retailers are telling them.
mhm,
And when retailers are saying, "Hey, we not gonna fuck with this book," that's it. That's it. When that came out, it was only a matter of time till DC said that they were going to cancel. Because I went to sleep Wednesday night not knowing how big the shit had blown up.
mhm,
Y'all, I woke up and I saw that y'all had sent something to the group chat like, "Hey, this is being canceled," and I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" So I started reading into it more. I talked to one of the girls whose family owns the shop I shop at, and they were like, "No, bro, this spread like crazy overnight in the Facebook groups and all of that,
mhm,
talking about how the retailer community, they were practically in open revolt. It wasn't that people are just feeling bad for Charlie Kirk or Charlie Kirk's family. There was some of that, not to say that there's nobody in the comics community who cares about him, but they were just like, "Yo, we cannot have this on our stands right now.
mhm.
She's making it too hot." And then it broke containment and started appearing in national news
Yep.
places. CNN picked it up early, but like I say, that's probably a little bit more because they're part under the same parent company. But you got shit like the New York Post, Fox News, and all that picking this up. Guys, this broke out of containment. There was no way that Warner Brothers could not cancel this book at that point. It is what
Mhm.
it is. I'm sorry.
Dollars wise, the book was done. And let's just say, cool. Let's just say let's entertain an idea or a future where they let issues 2 or 3 come out. I doubt they would move more than the first issue. I doubt it because there's just so much negative stink surrounding that book now. we also have to talk about this element as well, right? People were making it seem like, oh, this was DC silencing trans folk or XYZ. Another point to point out when it comes to you 14 to 25-year-olds who claim you are tapped in, it is a shame that me, straight black male, straight black male, I literally had to go on the timeline and say, yo, so we are just going to forget about all the other trans writers that DC has on their roster right now,
Oh,
and
thank
some of the and some of the dope work that they doing. We are
Oh
Nicole Main
man.
stands. We are Nicole
Yep.
Main stands. I was skeptical about this Nicole Mains person, but now a year later, oh please, whatever Nicole Mains is doing,
keep
it's
at it.
great.
Yep.
Nicole Mains was able to go from doing backups to Suicide Squad, from Suicide Squad to getting their character that debuted on the CW to be a major focal point in DC's big ass event last year.
Mm-hmm.
Follow that up with an amazing follow up to that event, Secret Six, while also touching up on the character Jon Kent, who needs a lot of love. And also now they're doing Justice League.
Piggyback off what Rose said about everybody that puts these disclaimers in their profiles, and we only go back to this as a pattern being shown. This shows that you guys don't get to say what the fuck y'all want to say either, with impunity. You got to be held accountable, just like I got to walk on eggshells to make sure I don't offend you. You got to walk on eggshells to make sure you don't offend nobody else either, and that's fair. That's called living in society. That's called living in a community. Nobody is supposed to have special privileges above the other,
Yeah.
regards to anything. Freedom of speech, how you move in society. Yes, there's a societary norm, right? If you walk outside butt ass naked, bro, I'm gonna look at you kind of if bro. You know what I'm saying? If you just got up constantly go to work in a nude, I'm not gonna judge you. You still be my boy. But I'm like, yeah, that nigga kind of bold. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's your prerogative, right? But there has to
Supposed
be
to laugh, bro. We're
standards,
not supposed to
right?
laugh.
It's supposed to be a standard, regardless of our individualness. There's supposed to be a standard that everybody is held to. My mother used to
Mm-hmm.
tell me growing up my entire life, hey son, you brush your hair, you brush your teeth, you put on decent clothes because you never know who you might meet.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who you might meet. My dad used to tell me, "Hey, son, you don't wear certain things not because it's not cool or fashionable. It's just you don't want to. You don't want that to be how somebody's first impression of you is." That's why my dad
Mm-hmm.
didn't let me get, Goku frost tips. Grow my hair out and get frost tips so I can have blonde hair because he knew I was like a goddamn fool. But
Yep.
that's just how it's supposed to be. And the more and more we fight these things, the more and more we can never be together because we're all fighting for power. All this goes down to I want to be the one and be on top. I want to be the one to do what the fuck I want to do. That's what got them in trouble. She thought because Charlie's a piece of shit that she could say whatever the fuck she wanted to do, she could be a piece of shit. And if we didn't learn anything from James Franco on This Is the End, hey, you can't be a piece of shit when everybody's a piece of shit. You want to go to heaven. All right? If God chose you to come up, you can't laugh at everybody else, or I'm going to drop your ass right back down with them. It's
Mm-hmm.
called karma at the end of the day. You get what you put out.
Yep. Oh, well said. And again, to circle back, it's just like DC's doing right by the trans folk, yo. They doing right. So we
They're,
can't turn
they're
this.
doing right by everybody of
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, but I want to I want to touch on them because it's like that's the narrative being spread right now is just like, oh, this is they're doing no, bro. You would only say that if you weren't really tapped in. So that's why I'm looking at everybody who's talking about that kind of silly. It's just like, no. So how dare you try to use Gretchen's identity as like a means of attack?
But
Like,
that's what they
no.
do. That's out the playbook, bro.
Yep.
That's out of their playbook, bro. When it comes to
Dog.
default, I'm in the wrong. This is what I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play victim, and I'm gonna. And I hate to sad to be a black guy saying that shit. This is how they move, bro. And this is the first time they've been held accountable for doing that shit.
Hell, fuck it. I'll say it. I'll say it on the timeline. I mean, I already said it on the timeline. I'll say it
Oh
here.
yeah, you did. You did.
They
You
try
did.
to use their identity as a shield But the whole time, not fucking knowing that there are other trans writers at DC.
Mm-hmm.
I had completely forgotten about Campbell. I'm focusing on
Didn't
Nicole
even know.
Haynes and Axelrod. And then Ro had to bring up, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. Campbell is doing Supergirl right now. That's
A major book
on their roster. Yes, one of them on a major fucking character. And then Maines and Axelrod are doing, I don't know if it's going to be a backup. I don't know if it's a mini. I don't know what it is. But right now, both of them, two trans writers, are co-writers on a Justice League story. Like, what
That's
are we talking
big.
about here,
That's
guys?
big. That's big.
Like, but because one got fired and she was fired for being an idiot, let's be very clear. But you're trying to make it as, oh, she was disposable because she was trans. No, she was disposable because she was an idiot and she's a largely new hire. I think she may have done one other piece of DC work through her entire career. Yeah, it's easy to fire that person because that person doesn't have any built-in runway with the company.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why she was fired, guys. She was an idiot online, and hey, we don't have too much invested in her, so we can show her walking papers.
We also can't pretend that DC is favoring a certain political side. Again, going back to the point of a lot of you guys are not tapped in like you guys claim you are tapped in. A couple of months ago, what was the biggest story in comic books? Jon Kent turning bisexual, right? Yep, the creative team for that book was Tom Taylor, and I forget who the artist was, but the colorist was Gail Altib. Gail Altib was so vexed by that whole thing. Not only did they leak out that Jon Kent was being bisexual, I believe that's what I read, they also went on their CG Buddies podcast and started saying a lot of disparaging things, not only about the character, but about DC as a whole and, the LGBTQ community. Just like Falcon Martin, DC didn't waste no time. Taylor went out immediately and said, yo, guys, we are redoing this first issue, because by that point, the first issue had come out. They said, yo, we're going to redo the first issue, and, with this cover and this cover and this cover. And then, to my knowledge, Gabe Altib has never had work for the big two again. They have work for, the CG Comicsgate. But no, DC was fair on both instances. And this is the new war regime of DC. So we can't say, oh, injustice was done for Falcon Martin, but completely ignore the fact that on the other side, DC did do their due diligence. We can't play that game. We cannot play that game. To close, again, this whole entire thing, it blows. I hope, with the next Red Hood creative team, at this point, it's probably safer to go with somebody more established. I think the heart of what they were trying to do was, okay, let's put somebody relatively new on a big title. And, they were promoting the hell out of this book. We even had the Gotham sampler. Like, they were doing their best to get behind this book. But I think because of the severity of the situation, if you are going to relaunch Red Hood, it got to be with somebody big to erase the stink. It can't be somebody from outside of comics. It got to be cool, you want to put Ben Percy? Ben Percy is a sure buy. Whoever, somebody established, somebody that has tenure in the game, do it. And then it has to make such big noise that people forget about what happened with Falcon Martin. So I think that's the best course of action for Red Hood. At this point, we don't even know if Hush 2 is ever going to finish. So by the time we see Jason again, fuck Hush. New number one, new status quo, whatever. If you got to retcon the shit, retcon the shit. Because at this point, from the way this Batman run is starting, it seems like they done parted ways with whatever was going to go on anyways. Jason, he is owed that.